everybody here this afternoon, all our friends, co-workers, family members, for taking time and making the journey to celebrate the life of our beloved Al Toll. A lot of people have made a very long journey to be here. And we know we had people from a lot of different states across our nation. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mike Clark. I have been a part of this family for about 11 years now. Thanks to the love and kindness from this family, I feel like I have been a family member forever. I am fortunate to be married to my best friend, Selena, Brooks, one of Brooks' older sisters. You know, you just couldn't help but love Al. He was a huge part of why I felt so welcome so fast into this family. Al could talk to anyone about any subject, and he actually knew what he was talking about. From sports, to politics, to music, to fine food, fine wine, Al was always very well versed. Al was a true Renaissance man. Brooke would sometimes, I think, maybe get a little bit upset because Al would get on the phone and call Jane, Brooke's mom, and talk to her about every subject under the sun, and then hand the phone to Brooke. And Brooke looked at the phone like, what is there left to talk about? So, anyway, speaking about being a Renaissance man, I was always impressed with the fact Al had served his country faithfully and with pride in the U.S. Marine Corps. Let's not forget, he was a gymnast, a college cheerleader, a pilot, a great aviator, a yachtsman. What a broad spectrum. Oh, and I almost forgot, he was a very good financial advisor, pouring countless hours into helping people with wise financial counsel and helping preserve their financial future for them. Where did he find time to do all this? I don't know if he ever slept or not. Most importantly to me, and thank God I never had to do this, but I knew that if I ever needed a shirt to cover my body, Al would have given me the one right off of his back. Al Toll could relate to those all around him. He felt empathy for all. He understood that we all have a past and we've all made mistakes. That is why I consider to be Al one of my best friends, because I've been down a lot of rocky roads and crooked paths. I've made a lot of mistakes. Al knew that about me, and he felt that in me. But he never judged me one bit. Turning to Scripture, our God cares about the sorrows of our hearts and wants us to cry to Him. Evening, morning, and noon, I cry out in distress, and He hears my voice. This is from Psalm 55, verse 17. And Psalm 61, verses 1 and 2 says, hear my cry, O God. Listen to my prayer. From the end of the earth I call to you. When my heart is faint, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. And now, please join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing all of us here together safely. We want to recognize that you are in control of all things, large and small. You know the details of all. We, as your children, do not understand why things happen the way they do. We have to understand that it is all for our good and your glory. We pray, dear God, that through Al's death, you reveal your plans for our lives here that remain. Al's journey is over, and he is at peace with you. Please let us find some of that peace here with each other that remain on earth. Please, dear God, be with us and help us to celebrate the joy of Al's life. Dear God, please help this family to find some peace and comfort from your love. You are a kind and gracious Father. Please bring Brooke special peace and comfort, knowing she has lost her best friend. It is in your blessed Son's name, Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen. I would like to turn this over now to Al's sister, Mary Ann, so that she may honor her brother with kind words. May God shed his peace and countenance upon you all.
I'm Mary Ann. I'm Al's older sister. Although I usually don't like to admit that, I used to try to say Marsha was his older sister. Okay. This will give you a little sense of the background and history of Al. Al was born July 18, 1949 in St. Louis, Missouri, 5 minutes ahead of his twin brother, Harry. He considered that this had some meaning, but we never knew what that was. When we were young, my brother George, who is older, decided that he and I should each have one of the twins as our personal underling, sort of the Sancho Panza to Don Quixote. George chose Harry, which resulted in such memorable labels as the Great Goonder. I didn't give Al a title, but we did form a lasting and permanent bond, although we did not look alike or even bear the strong resemblance that Marsha and George share. It's a personal inside joke. We had a lot of fun growing up with the twins really pulling most of the pranks on our mother. They had a definite affinity for water. They would engage in water fights with the object of soaking our mother. She would get a large pot from the kitchen and lure them onto the porch under the second floor window and then pour water, empty the pot of water onto their heads. They would then enlist my sister Marsha, who was younger, to feign an injury on the sidewalk so that my mother would run out to see what was wrong with Marsha, and the twins would come from each side with water hoses and soak her. The twins would also torture Marsha by hiding in a closet or under her bed, so when she went to bed and was just about asleep, they would jump out and scare her. She's still afraid to sleep alone to this day. I missed out on their high school years because I was away at college, but I have no doubt that the same type of pranks continued. In recent years, since Al and Brooke moved to Las Vegas, we would visit and he would be our tour guide. My kids, especially Amanda and Matt, loved to tell stories about Uncle Al and their escapades with him, particularly when he would take them to the mountains or on the water in his plane. And they never tired of hearing about Al's adventures, real or fictional. Al attended school in University City in St. Louis and graduated, and then attended Mizzou and graduated in, I believe, 1971. He was active in the fraternity, A Pi, which was was my father's was very lovely. Al had a checkered career until he found his niche in the financial services industry, moving to Kansas City, Minnesota, St. Louis, Kansas City, Charleston, Nashville, and finally Las Vegas. Along the way, he fathered Aaron and Amy, and his grandfather, and very proud grandfather, to Aiden, Allie, and Avoree. My father was a strong believer in marriage, but by the time Al and Brooke met, he was starting to doubt his convictions because of Al's prior marriages. But after a short time, he became so enamored with Brooke that he questioned why she was with Al. My parents both said she was the best thing that ever happened to Al. And Al, I cannot forget or forgive you for leaving us so soon and leaving a void that we will have a hard time filling. We love you, we miss you too. Thank you.
I'm the youngest, which means I was tortured the most. We had lots of fun. First of all, I would just like to thank the Newell family for embracing Al and giving him a family that he loved so much. We love each and every one of you, and it was always a story that we would hear. He just really felt lucky to be a part of your family. When you lose someone, you lose that piece that only they can fill. Without Al, we will miss learning about the newest spots, Sonic, the festivals we have to see, the Shakespeare Festival, or the food we have to try. Most of all, Annie won't have a crazy Uncle Al to call and get the worst joke that is around. And then she can come back to me and say, "You listen, Charlie." Al was really ahead of his time. Long before the younger generation started documenting their every move, Al took endless pictures and then videos. He always showed the videos he was always showing. We really never had a conversation with Al because we were busy looking at videos and pictures. The last two I saw were Aiden and Allie, and Simon, as if he awaited Brooke at home. And then you had to watch Al and Brooke and Simon had that little reunion. Simon got very excited. And Al was always, as usual, writing excellent narration. It wasn't always easy between Al and me. We fought a lot over different things. As Stacy and Todd can tell you, it was horrible during some real estate transactions. But somehow we always found a way back into each other's lives. Thank goodness. Al kept coming back and was more forgiving than I was. Al will be the first to tell you he made a lot of mistakes when he was younger and well into adulthood, but he always kept trying. The last 24 years with Brooke, he became the man I think he always wanted to be. The doting, devoted husband, and it was wonderful to see how much he loved her and how he treated her and how he treated and doted on Brooke. The loyalty and love that Brooke gave him finally gave him a real sense of happiness. He also became a wonderful grandfather to Aiden and Allie, who truly the light in his eyes. He loves Aaron and Amy very much and tried to do the best for them, even when he knows he didn't, and he may not have seen it. Hospice tells us of the 5 essential conversations you should have, and what we didn't have time to say are, please forgive me, I forgive you, I love you, thank you so much, and sadly, goodbye.
Okay, there's only one person in this room that's more nervous than I am right now, and that's my mom. They're gonna let Bradford speak? Tell you what, if you don't know me, most would say you're blessed. Those who do, I'm sorry. I'm actually Brooke's brother. I'm in between two great sisters older and two great sisters younger. Got a couple goals today. Don't cry. Hey, look, Mom, not only does he have a weight problem, he's a crier. Make a few people laugh, make a few people smile. Most of all, I want to hear my sister Brooke snort. If you haven't, we've tried to figure out exactly what it was. Is it a small farm animal getting stuck in a gate? Is it somebody sneezing, coughing, and hiccuping at the same time backwards? If you hear it, you will laugh. In a speech by Jim Valvano, days before his death, he said, try to bring yourself each day to cry a little, laugh a little, and love a little. And since hearing of our loss, I think we've all done that and probably done it really well. After the shocking news, I went outside of our home and I cried. Al would not have wanted that. So what did I do? It's been mentioned a couple times before. I went to my phone. I looked up texts that he'd sent me. Oh gosh, there were some great ones. I'm gonna try to share some of them. I listened back to some of his voicemails. That was tough, but I did it. I also found some of the text pictures that he sent. He loved everybody. He truly did love everybody. The first one I came across was a little figurine, and it was a little black Santa. And Al had taken a Post-it note and stuck it to the little Santa and said, "Black Santa's lives matter too." There's a picture from the balcony of their place in Mexico, which I didn't know at the time, so I said, "Al, is that the picture from the balcony of your place in Mexico? I wish I was there." He texts back, he goes, "Hell, I wish I was there." I said, "Well, you didn't say it was at your place in Mexico?" The next text back was, "Si, senor." Some other things that I found, text messages from Al. Letters to the editor, letters to the local newspaper. So that Sunday morning, I read a couple of those to my wife, Corey. And our youngest son, Al, or excuse me, our youngest son, Boone. They were funny, they were truthful, some of them were financial, some of them were for the betterment of people. But at the bottom of it, I see Alfred R. Toll, North Vegas, Nevada. I go, R. Toll? Never did I know that his middle initial was R. But Richard? Oh, if I had only known that. If you're under 35, Google it and see what's short for Richard. I'm not sure what I ever would have done with it, but I guarantee we would have had fun with it. And then I started thinking about other R words that reminded me of Al. Respectful, resilient, responsible, reluctant. Like when he would go into a store and there'd be 2 clearance racks there. One rack, 2 t-shirts for $4. The other rack was 1 t-shirt for $5. He knew Brooke would never let him wear the 2 for $4. So he would reluctantly buy the 1 t-shirt for $5. Not sure about the next one. They love my sister so much, I'm sure he was romantic. Another word, retired. And maybe 2 of Al's favorite R words ever, Ronald Reagan. A few short stories about Al. And Stacy, not sure how much time we have left, but just somebody start waving, okay? Why would we care? Al would just keep talking. I'm looking at her. So, the quick little stories here. The headers for each one. Sprint Airlines, the barbecue, the deck, his plane, the toothbrush, moneymakers. Sorry, Brooke, I got that one. So he calls me one day, he's so excited. Hey. So, there's a new airline. It's called Spirit Airlines. You can get from Vegas to Kansas City for $26. I said, Al, what do you gotta do, bring your own gas? I did not pick Al up very often at the airport because to get that $26 flight, you typically left at 2, 3, or 4 in the morning. Who wants to go to KCI at 2 or 3 in the morning to pick somebody up? A couple times I did. Oh, the one time I can remember picking Al up, I pull up to the airport and he's waving me down, and there's another gentleman standing next to him. So I'm like, okay, not sure what's going to happen about right now, but Al eagerly opens up the door. Hey Brad, can we take my friend to downtown Kansas City too? I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely, friend of Al's, friend of mine. So Al hops in the front seat, the other guy hops in the back. So I said, oh, you must be a neighbor of Al's. No, we met on the airplane. I was like, okay, let's go. I look back down and I go, on the airplane. He laughed, only how Al could laugh. The barbecue. He calls one day, he's in Kansas City, and he said, hey, grab your boys. Let's go to Oklahoma Joe's. It's Joe's KC now barbecue. You want to go there? So my oldest son was doing something else, but my youngest son was available. I said, hey, Uncle Al wants to take us to get some barbecue. Let's go. So that's great. So we go, we order, we get ready to order. So I'm first, and then it's my son Boone, and then Al. So Al's standing there, hey you guys, order whatever you want. Just go ahead and get whatever you want. I was like, well, that's what I'm planning on doing, Al. No, serious, get whatever you want. The whole time I'm thinking, I look at Boone and I go, well, maybe we'll get some extra fries. He's buying. So we get up to the checkout. So once again, it's me, Boone, Al. I feel an arm come across the front of us. Al goes, hey, I'll get this. So I said, look at Boone, I go, hey, this might actually happen. Al's gonna buy us lunch. So I grab my tray. Al walks away. I don't really pay attention. I see him give the man money. So as I walk away, I hear, sir, Sir, Boone grabbed me, Dad, you have to pay. Al only paid for his own. That's a classic Al story right there. The deck. My mom and dad had a deck on the back of their house for almost 40 years. It was about time to replace that deck. My good friend Matt, who was a framer for years, I took him over there and I said, hey, can we build a deck for my mom and dad? He goes, yeah. So we go over there, and Brooke and Al happened to be in town. My dad's out there with us, and my buddy Matt, we're demoing this deck, and we're out as fast as Matt could cut the boards. I'm picking him up. Matt loves my dad, so he would cut boards. That my dad could pick up too. So we would gather the lumber and take it to the little pickup truck, back and forth from the debris pile. I had a partner. His name was Al. He was talking the whole time. And my buddy, Matt, just a good, hard-working person. He's cutting these boards as fast as he gets cut. And I noticed Matt starts to slow down a little bit. So I look back, Al's still talking. My dad's taking boards over to the truck. So finally I say, hey Al, you gonna stop talking and help us? Al counters right back in only Al fashion. You guys look like you have it under control. His beloved airplane. He starts to tell me about his airplane. He goes, Brad, I don't even know why people won't go up in an airplane. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Then he tells me a story. He's flying by himself, and he goes, I'm flying around, and he goes, I look down and I'm almost out of fuel. Maybe that's the first reason, Al. He goes, I finally find an airport. He goes, they had these big X's on the runway. He goes, Brad, you know what that means? I go, no. He goes, you can't land that day. So he goes, I continue to fly. So finally, I find an airport and I land. And he looks at me again and he says, he goes, Brad, why won't somebody fly with me? I don't understand it. I go, well, quit telling them stories like that. And the last thing about his plane, when they moved out here, they had to fly the plane out here, and Al wasn't confident enough, of course, at that time, to fly it all the way out here. And he looks at me and he goes, I always feel more comfortable when there's a pilot with me. I go, Al, when most people fly, they're glad there's a pilot. Al would ask me questions about Brooke all the time. And I don't know if other brother-in-laws ask their brother-in-laws questions like this, but he goes, you have the other sisters and everything, but they're girls, they're women, Brad. I go, yeah, Al, I got that, buddy. He goes, but you're the only other person I know that has lived with Brooke. That's growing up. And he goes, she's like, I can't ask your sisters these questions, I gotta ask you. I go, okay, Al, what is it? He goes, did your sister ever ask you, did you brush your teeth today, Al? I said, no, Brooke never asked me if I brushed my teeth, Al, today. He goes, well, what happened? He goes, well, she went up in the bathroom, and I guess she touched the end of my toothpaste or toothbrush and noticed it was still dry. So she marches in and she goes, Al, did you brush your teeth today? He goes, I didn't know what else to say, Brad. I said, yes. I didn't know she was going to touch the end of it and make sure it was wet or dry. I said, that's okay, buddy. The other room is about money-making ideas, and he would call me all the time, and he says, hey, why don't we buy houses together? Why don't we flip houses? I go, Al, we can't nail two boards together. He says, that might be a problem. That might be a problem. Then there were the assist mobile for folks that need to go to the doctor. And I thought, hey, you know, you might be onto something there. And I said, you know, we're gonna have to hire people to drive these vans. He goes, well, I thought you and Brooke and my wife Corey could drive them. How? We have jobs. That might be a problem. Al has so many great abilities and unique ones. He had a great sense of humor, and he had the ability to laugh at himself. If we walk out here today with one thing, let's learn to do that. But as far as the money makers, he would, and some folks alluded to this earlier in some of their talks about Al, but Al had a unique ability to start a conversation with somebody 2 or 3 rooms away. So if you would come like for a family gathering and say Mike would walk in, you could hear Al going, hey, Mike's here. And then he would wade through the crowded room like a bull shark. And he was not going to stop until he got there and greeted that person with a warm handshake, and then something about their career, something about what they like, something about what they like to do. So, and it didn't matter, like Mary said earlier, he truly loves so many people. But on this particular day, it was Christmas or Christmas Eve, it was around Christmas. And I didn't see Al anywhere. So I was kind of like, well, how come he hasn't seen me or said something? So Brooke comes up with this big smile on her face. Al can't wait to tell you about this new job he got. And I was like, so I'm standing, I have my back against the wall. And out of nowhere, here comes Al. And he's got a pair of these glasses on that somebody might have wore 40 or 50 years ago. These thick, black frame glasses. And all he's doing is right in front of me. He had no problem getting to your interpersonal space. I go, Al, what in the world are you doing? I'm filming your reactions to what I'm doing. I'm like, what are you talking about? Oh, it has a little camera right here. Right here, there's a camera. So this company has hired me to go to the mall and ask people about reviews of either their dining experience or their experience in a shop. And I'm going to video them, and I'm going to get their reactions, and I'm going to send them somewhere. I was like, Al, they couldn't have picked a better person for that job. And he smiled. He was so happy. I'm almost done. Al was many things to many people. He was a man. He was a dude. He was a friend. He was a soldier. He was a coworker. He was a boss. He was a neighbor. He was an uncle. He was a brother. He was a brother-in-law. He was a dad. He was a poppy. He was a son-in-law. He loved my parents. Most of all, he was my sister's best friend. Welcome you, Alfred R. Toll.
They used to say you walk a mile for a camel. Well, I'd walk many a mile to be with Al, because as Brad shared with you all the funny things that can happen with Al. He never met a stranger. So I met a lot of people with Al, you can imagine. But I've been with him under houses, I've been with him, you name it, funny places and things we've done. Been up in a tree with him before, doing something in a tree, and I could go on and think about all these other things, but I don't want to take away from what Brad had to say, because Brad really knew Al, I guess, a little better than me, but I always enjoyed being with Al, and he was a friend. If you have 5 friends in your lifetime, you're wealthy. And so Al was that type of friend. I would have gone to help him, and he would have done the same for me, I'm sure. He was that type of a guy. He had a heart, a big heart. He loved people, he loved his family, and we kept in contact, although I didn't get out here much anymore. One time we were out here, he played a trick on my wife and myself. He had us at that big place up there where they had that roller coaster. We're in there eating, and all of a sudden we see this thing going on. He caught us that time, but that was a funny experience. That's what Al liked to do. He liked to have you laughing, and he was just a fun guy, a guy that always be a part of my heart and my memories, because he was that type of a good friend. I'm sure he's a friend to everyone here, because that's the type of guy I was. So he'll be missed, but he's only a thought away.
You did such a great job. My name is Terry Glazer, and I met both Al and Harry back in the 60s. I was 12 years old, and they were in high school at the time. I guess since we're talking about everybody's age, I'm about 5 years younger than Al and Harry, and a year older than Marcia. University City had a summer program for kids to keep them out of trouble and have activities to do. And we had a coach, Walter Voss, who was the director, and they hired counselors from the high school, and Al and Harry were counselors. So it's kind of a scary idea that they were influencing young minds. And back then, there was none of this Al. It was Alfie and Harry. Unless Harry was mad at Alfie, and then it was Alfie. So it wasn't until later we started calling him Al. Harry and Al were both gymnasts, and they influenced me to take up gymnastics, but of course, that was about 30 pounds ago. So in high school, the gymnastic team wanted to compete in an early YMCA meet, and rules prevented Coach Voss from being involved. So Harry and Al were both in town, and Harry was became our coach, and we called ourselves the University City Gymnastic Club. The day of the meet, it turned out that Al was recruited to be a judge. So we realized there was a little bit of conflict of interest there. And the worst thing is we won the meet. So, we kind of expected 60 minutes to be on our doorstep the next day, but evidently that wasn't not on their radar. In the summers in college, Al and I would meet up with other people and play tennis. I remember Al sharing a secret with me that I used numerous times. Evidently, when Al had been at the zoo, he had come onto this information that they had this walrus named Siegfried, and he had this huge tank in front of the aquatic house. The front of it was about 30 feet long, and there's always a whole crowd of people trying to get this walrus's attention. Of course, he was just laying up there and, not responding. But Al had taught me, and I guess he was there when they fed Siegfried one time. You go to the far end of the whole containment thing and get your hand on the tile, and Siegfried would get off of his area, get in the water, swim all the way over, and then his head would come up right where you're standing, and you'd pet him on his whiskers. That impressed these people. They thought we were like Tarzan. We were able to summon this walrus. I stayed in Kansas City after pharmacy school and reconnected with Al numerous times as he traveled from place to place, city to city. We actually each used the same builder when we built houses in Independence, and so we were neighbors for a few years. Brooke came into the picture, and as people have mentioned, that was one of the best things that ever happened to Al. And Brooke knows that whenever I had to talk to Al, I always told him that no matter what disagreement you ever will have with Brooke, I'm on her side. My wife's a nurse practitioner. I was like, this is a pharmacist. So Al always called us for free healthcare advice. And I always reminded him this was worth everything. He also believed that he wanted to do a back handspring on his birthday every year. He thought if he did that, he'd never lose that ability. So he called us one day, and of course he didn't want to talk to me because it had nothing to do with medicine. He wanted to talk to my wife. And he said, should I be concerned? I've got this tingling in my arms and hands. And my wife said, well, why? What happened? He goes, well, I was doing my annual back handspring, and it didn't go very well. So he survived that. I also took, before Al had his pilot's license, I was flying, and we went on a flight, and there was a strong crosswind, and although we survived the landing, it wasn't the perfect landing. Al never missed the opportunity to remind me of that landing. So, like many of you, I have thought a lot about my friendship with Al since hearing of his passing. And even though we didn't see each other often, I would say he's my longest and oldest connection back to my days growing up. I'm lucky to have him as a friend. I'll miss him deeply.
My name is Deborah Bannock. In the dictionary, urban tribe is defined as a closely knit extended family type of group of 6 or more, usually unrelated, who regularly converge for meals, parties, and various social interactions, and act as each other's support group. Al Toll was the head of my tribe. Al and I first met at Scottrade branch manager meetings in St. Louis over 20 years ago. The meetings were unmemorable, except for Al, who was always entertaining. After Brooke and Al moved to Las Vegas, our friendship grew unforgettable. Over the years, he always herded the cats for birthday parties, dinners, hikes, stargazing, Shakespeare festivals in Utah, even Mount Charleston to view the International Space Station passing by. Many I thought were going to be lame, but turned out to be so much fun and so many memories shared. I flew in his Mooney twice. The first time I thought it was so nice he invited me. Then I realized he had no idea where he was in the air. He didn't know the difference between Boulder City and Henderson. He argued that the 95 was the 15. He just needed somebody who could look out the window and recognize highways, a human Google Maps. Once I asked Al and Adam to help me navigate the route through Nevada and Utah for a drive I planned for the Porsche Club. Quickly, I learned the plethora of information Al knew. Northbound on the 15, he pointed at what looked like a bowling pin. It's a VOR used for airplane radar. I was so happy I would get cool information for my trip. In the car, 6 hours later, I yearned for silence. The talk never stopped. That's Al. Al and I went to the Strip on New Year's Eve this year. He said he always wanted to check it out. I knew how to get there and avoid traffic, and I paid the $30 for parking. It was so cold and so many layers of clothes, I told Al he could hug me since he couldn't feel anything. I wish I could hug him one more time. I always sent Al articles about Poland helping Jews during World War II. He reciprocated with articles about Chicago corruption, especially in Cicero, the suburb I'm from. I think it's appropriate to share a quote from Marcus Cicero, the great orator, just like Al. The life given us by nature is short, but the memory of a life well spent is eternal.
Al, it's so hard to find where to begin when talking about the one and only Alfred R. Toll. I remember the first day I met you 10 years ago, when I was still in college, and you were interviewing me as a new intern. You told me your first joke that day, and I remember thinking, okay, having an old guy with a sense of humor as a boss would be kind of fun. I didn't know then how much fun we would have over the years. You took me under your tutelage, showed me the ropes, and taught me never to complain to an old guy about how old I was feeling when I had barely just turned 21. The work days seemed to fly by in those early years, as you were always up to your antics, like the time you got Steve to do-si-do to Hank Williams, or how you and Tyler used to argue about who was going to play Rhett Butler in the next Gone with the Wind remake. Al's gonna win that one, Tyler, I'm sorry. Having trust in you as our fearless leader was never hard, Al. But I quickly learned how to sense a prank on the horizon with you, after I once gave you my car keys to later find a stack of phone books used as a booster seat when I opened my door. You said you were only trying to help improve my driving skills, and we both had a good laugh. You were ever the gentleman, Al, always looking out for not just me, but anyone and everyone you came across. You were never shy about asking people where they were from, what they liked to do, or if they needed any help. You always kept a positive and uplifting attitude towards life, and you helped remind me to not sweat the small stuff, and everything will work out fine. That really came in handy when you took me flying in your Mooney. Everyone's got an Al story. I'll never forget the way you said, "Uh-oh, well that doesn't sound good." When the radio receiver went dead and the plane started shaking. We landed that day though, but I never went up again. My dad always held you in high esteem, and he always said he could count on one hand how many true friends he had in life. And I am so lucky to have known a man that can be counted on so many people's hands as a true and loyal friend. You had always talked about your days in AE Pi, and how proud you were for all the work your dad had done in bringing people together. You told me once that you were quite humbled in remembering how so many people had looked up to your dad when they spoke about him at his memorial. Well, Al, here we are at yours, and I can't say enough good things about you. We always joked, Al, that you were all hat and no cattle, and that you should have been a cowboy. You may not have had any real cattle in life, but you had something else worth far more. Al, you were all hat and all heart, and I'm going to miss you.
y'all hear me? And Al is my friend. I thought I would try to get up here first because I knew that the main point that I wanted to express about Al was his quick wit and humor, and I wanted to be the only one to say it quick. But just a week and a half ago, Al and I were texting back and forth, and he was on his way, I think, to Puerto Penasco in a week. And I said, when you go through Sonoyta, your border crossing, I'd like you to take a look around. And I reminded him of a story that I heard back in the mid-90s about the Mexican army fighting the cartel for 4 hours with the tourists all laying in the floorboards of their car that evening, trying to get back across the border. And eventually the army had to retreat. Something similar just happened a couple weeks ago. And I finished the text, and immediately the response was flying back at me. And it was designed to give Al a little bit of pause about going across the border and being aware of the dangers down there. And the response I got was, I'm not worried in the least. I learned in the Marine Corps that there is no such thing as a retreat. There's only a strategic advance to the rear. That response was coming as soon as I was off. I don't know how he calls anything up like that, but he had an extraordinarily nimble intellect and razor sharp sense of humor. I got to know Al through Brooke. Brooke and I taught school together in almost an inner city setting, and Brooke was upstairs teaching French. I was downstairs teaching biology. And I developed a little adventure outings club. And on certain weekends, we would drag 15-year-olds into risky situations. We'd go boating, we'd go hiking along cliffs, we'd go caving through wild caves in the Tennessee country. And I asked Brooke if she would mind helping me be the responsible adult. And so she would join in as a chaperone. So we would get up at the crack of dawn, load all the kids up in cars and head up into the mountains where we'd go caving. And on one particular trip, Al was along. He quickly blended in with all the 15-year-olds. And Brooke joined me as the responsible adult. And we were going through a cave after a 2-mile hike into a wild cave with a river issuing from the mouth. And we'd made it perhaps a quarter of a mile. And it was apparent that the water was so deep that we weren't going to be able to traverse the cave to the other entrance and leave. So rather than go all the way back out the way we had just come, because it involved a very, very steep and slippery climb to get back up on the top of the mountain where we picked up our trail, I decided to take a shortcut. There was an opening high overhead, about 80 feet off the floor of the cave. And the ramp of rock that led up to it exceeded the angle of repose that any gravity could explain. The rocks that made this ramp were the size of basketballs and ranged up to garbage can size. And they were glued together with slippery mud and bat guano. And so I led the way to try to find the route. Al was right behind me. We got to the top. And the third person up was Brooke. And Brooke, because we worked together, the way she would express herself to me was as a friend, but also as a colleague. And so it was like a veil would flutter past her face briefly, and I would see Brooke, and then it would flutter back, and I would see Miss Toll. And then it would flutter back again, I would get to see Brooke, and then flutter back. And that's a cadence that she retains to this day. But as she was coming up this very slippery, very steep, very dangerous exit to the cave up on the forest on the side of the mountain, the veil had blown completely back. And as her eyes locked into mine, there was a very unambiguous expression of dissatisfaction and, dissatisfaction. And I didn't know how to take it. I looked at it. I'd never seen a look like that from her before. And I looked at Al was sitting next to me, and he sensed the look, and he sensed my lack of comfort. And I heard this warm chuckle begin. And he said, "Oh, don't worry about that. I see that look all the time." You've just been initiated into the circle. And I instantly relaxed. His reassurance, his empathy, was extraordinary. And it enabled him to gain perspective on the human condition that was a good thing for anybody to model to me. And so despite the world being a little smaller with Al's passing, he's leaving me with a much bigger world that I'll remain with forever.
I've known Al since I was a little kid. And his tributes are great. I just wish I'd raised him better. I have a thousand stories. I'll just relate a couple of my favorites. When we were growing up, my mother used to scream, you know, you raise your voice a little now. Kids say, "You're yelling at me, you're yelling at me, you're yelling at me." You could hear my mother 3 or 4 houses back. And she would yell for my sister, Marsha, to come down. And as soon as she did that, Al and I knew we had to grab Marsha and hold her mouth, our hand rose back. So my mother would yell louder and louder. Marsha was trying to get away. And it was one of the many enjoyable things we did. She'd have boyfriends come over, not often, because we'd hide in the closet, go to the closet, put their clothes away, we jump out. She doesn't date very much. And one other funny story, my brother George is sleeping because he's more dirty. We grew up in D.C. and when he was young, good looking, and wasn't so abnormal. And he said to us, my brother, he said, we're going to a girl's house, I'm starting to date her. Please act normal. I said, please act normal. Okay, George, no problem. So when he came out with the girl, he jumped out of the tree like a monkey in Junior Stone. That's not no story, but I'm just very happy that Al had some family, and children, grandchildren.
You do it. I'm gonna be up here. My sisters are good at this, very good at this. I'm not so good at this. I'll make this real short and sweet. Brooke, he said when I came in, thank you for being here with your little brother when you were there for him beautifully for 24 years. Thank you for that. The Lord does something. Like I say, I'm not a good public speaker in any circumstance, much less in something like this. So thank you all for being here and remembering Al in the way that we all do. Thank you.